How to buy a car in 2023 for Turo. This is such an important topic. I know so many of you guys are stoked to get started on the platform, and I have to make sure that you understand that buying a car at the right deal for Turo is so crucial. If you buy a car that's overpriced or the car payments are way too high, it's gonna take away from its profitability and you're gonna be putting in the same amount of work for no money in the end. So why would you wanna do that? You wanna be smart and you wanna understand the best way to buy so that you're prepared when the time comes and you see the right deal. Now, if you've seen some of these Turo forums and talked to other hosts on the platform, you may have noticed that there are a lot of people who have purchased cars in 2022 or in the last 15 months or so, and they bought at crazy high prices and sometimes even at high interest rates. What that's led to is having cars that they're upside down on for the loans and the values because car prices have come down so much in the last couple months. And this is putting people in a really bad position. You never want to scale your fleet or continue to buy cars just for the sake of scaling your business. You want to make sure that every move you make, every car you add, whether it's one car or 3 cars, that you buy every single one at the right deal. A lot of people have the misconception that if they buy a car, even if it's slightly overpriced and they pay a little more than they wanted to, that they can make up for it by renting it out for a couple of extra days or at a higher day rate. But that's not how it works. Your cars are generally going to have a certain average number of days that they're rented out for, and they will always have sort of a max day rate that the market is willing to pay for that car. And just because your car payment is high doesn't mean that it can get you more money on the market, because a renter is not willing to pay for it. So now we're gonna look at the best ways to purchase a car to make sure you get a good deal, and we wanna aim for that golden number of 15 to 20%. And I'm gonna show you guys exactly how. Okay, now before we get into me showing you what's going on in the market and how to purchase that car and some tips and tricks that you can use next time you're buying a car, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I would so appreciate your guys' support. Okay, so the first thing we know and that we're gonna take a look at right here is that things have dramatically changed in the last 5 to 6 months, right? The economy has gone haywire. The Fed has increased interest rates, which means that when you go to finance a car, interest rates are extremely high. We can see here Edmunds has updated their report, and they're showing that for the month of October, the average APR on a used vehicle, meaning the interest that you'll pay on the loan, is now 9.6%, which is huge. And for a new car, it is at 6.3%. So that means that the cost of borrowing money to get a vehicle is very, very expensive. Now, for some context, we are just coming at a time where we had historically low interest rates in 2021, where you could literally get financing for under 1%. So it's crazy that it has almost 6 to 10x what it used to be, and you never want to purchase cars at these rates. So what that means is that you need to track the market and understand what's happening so that you can go in there and negotiate really well. Now, the way dealerships work, especially franchise dealerships, is that they typically want you to finance your vehicles through a preferred lender because they make money off of that, and that is an income stream for them. So before you go in, the number one thing that you want to do is your research, and there are many facets to research. The first facet is going online and seeing if the OEM, the manufacturer, has any rebates or incentives that they are offering. Now, what happens is the manufacturer might come out with certain incentives if you purchase a vehicle, special financing rates or rebates, and they kind of trickle that down to the dealerships. Now, the dealerships don't necessarily have to disclose that to you. In fact, there was a report that was published that 80% of customers from one particular brand were overpaying on their auto loans because the dealership was financing them through their preferred lender, even though the OEM had rebates and special incentives. So when you go in, you want to do a lot of research on what is available to you so that you can ask for that stuff and get yourself in a better deal. Now, one of the things that I love, and this is courtesy of Lease Hacker, the Lease Hacker community, which is amazing, especially if you're into leasing, is that one of their members has put together this amazing chart. And what it's showing us here is different banks that do financing for vehicles, right? And many of them are credit unions. The reason being is that credit unions have some of the best interest rates when it comes to auto lending. And you can see right here, based on the averages that we saw here on Edmunds, 9.6% and 6.3%, that many of these credit unions are coming in at almost half of what the average is across the nation. So of course you would want to secure financing through a credit union if you can. And you can see right here, IDB Global, as low as 3.25%, and there's a ton other credit unions. And you can always look for credit unions that are in your area that are offering competitive rates. I know here in Southern California, I get emails all the time from local credit unions with the competitive interest rates. In fact, one of my banks recently sent me an email for pre-approval at a 4% APR, which was awesome in comparison to what the going rate is. Now, another thing that I saw on Lease Hacker as well is doing financing through a personal line of credit. So these again are all gonna fall into that category of doing your research when it comes to buying a car in 2023, because you are going to encounter a lot of this. So let's say, you're doing your research, you see credit unions have competitive APRs, but there's also an alternative of getting financing for automotive loans, which is doing it through a personal line of credit. Now, I saw this awesome article through Lease Hacker, and it was showing that there is a bank called First Republic's personal line of credit. They offer you revolving lines of credit from $70,000 to $350,000 at an interest rate of 3.95%, of course, if you qualify. And this can be used for automotive loans as well. So especially if you're in the SoCal area, if you're in Florida, Wyoming, Washington, Oregon, New York City, these are great places where you can take advantage of something like this. They don't require any collateral, and it just makes it really easy to secure funding. Now, many of my host friends, I know you guys use Car Putty. Car Putty is another fantastic revolving line of credit company where they will extend that to you, and you can either refinance any existing auto loans that you might have, or you can go out and purchase new vehicles with that. And I've heard fantastic things. So Car Putty is also only available in certain states, just like First Republic is, but at least this gives us kind of now two companies that do this, which should hopefully cover many of the markets that we're in. So the key here is, before you go in, let's say you did your market research, you found a car that you like, securing good financing is extremely crucial in this market. Why? Because like we saw in Edmunds, APR rates through the preferred lenders, especially for dealerships, are very high right now. And why should you pay extra to borrow money when you don't have to, when there are better options? So if you just take some time to do research and educate yourself, you can really save on the cost of financing when you bring in your own financing, or if you at least know what the competitive rates are, and that's going to help you secure a good deal on your car and bring that cost down. Remember, when you pay a high interest rate, that means your monthly payments are going to go up, your cost of ownership is going to go up, which is of course going to take away from the profitability of your car. And that is the thing that you want to avoid at all costs. Now, if you guys are liking this video so far, make sure you hit that like button. Comment down below if you guys want me to share some of these spreadsheets with you guys. I'm happy to share it, and I'll definitely drop those links in the comment section if you guys are up for it. So that is the main thing, is that you want to shop, do your research before you head in for any incentives and rebates. Now, the number two thing that you want to do right now, and this is so crucial and important, is to really exercise patience. This is so important because never in history of car prices have we seen them decline so consecutively. Now, for the first time since 2012, we've seen almost 6 consecutive months of car prices coming down. And I love using this Car Guru's price trend graph, which you guys might have heard me talk about in the past. I highly recommend it, and I will put the link down in the description below. Now, what I've done here is I've backdated it to 2022 because we just kind of want to see where were car prices, where did they get to, and where are they going now, right? It's all about where they're going now from where they were. And as we can see, the curves are finally starting to change. It is finally starting to come down. And while it's a new year and it's so exciting and you want to take on that side hustle and you want to list a car on Turo and have that additional income stream, believe me, the best thing that you can do for yourself is just exercise some patience. And in the meantime, while you wait for these prices to come down so that you can buy at a killer deal, you should take maybe a car that you might already have. Maybe you're working from home right now. Maybe you're not utilizing that car to commute like you used to, and you can list it on the platform, even if you do it part-time, just to get a feel for how the system works, what type of effort it takes, what type of work it takes, and get a feel for what it feels like when you have a complete stranger renting your car. These are all things that you can start doing proactively right now as you prepare to buy the perfect car at the perfect price. Now, if you want to learn more about the entire Turo system, you can check out my website, powerhost.club. I will walk you through the whole thing A through Z and kind of share with you my 8 years of doing this. So throughout the next year, especially over the next 3, 4, 5 months or so, I want you guys to really keep an eye on this Car Guru's price trend graph so we can understand where prices are going. And what I love right here, and perhaps the most important thing to know, let's say you're thinking about getting a BMW. What we really want to look at is what has happened to prices in the last 30 days and the last 90 days, because this is extremely telling of where prices are going, right? Because the Fed stepped in, they're increasing interest rates, demand is falling, and people are feeling kind of the effects of the recession and not having as much disposable income. We are seeing those prices come down, and you can just see how much they've come down over just the last 30 days, and it is pretty significant. So we want this trend to continue so that we can finally get into cars at good prices. And for me personally, I have not purchased a car from Turo in the past year. It's the first time ever in almost 8 years of doing this that I haven't bought a car because it's not worth it. Remember, at the end of the day, the purpose of a business is to make money. It's to have that cash flow and that profitability, right? So no matter how much someone wants to sell you the dream of having your own business, it's great to have all these cars. None of it matters if you're not making money. So if it's not a logical and rational decision, do not do it, right? I don't care about, how many cars I have, what type of cars I have. If they're not going to make me money, I'm not going to get into it, because that is the whole purpose of this. If you're going to put your time into listing a vehicle, it better make you money and it better be profitable. So that's why you want to buy at the right deal. I cannot emphasize this enough, how many hosts I have seen go in and out of cars at the wrong price, the wrong deal, and not pushing for that 15 to 20% off of MSRP and negotiating good deals because they rushed into it. They don't exercise that patience. And it's only up until you list it and you realize, oh gosh, this is eating away at my margins and it's taking up my time. You want your time to be worth as much as you possibly can. So in that time, while you're exercising that patience, you want to just do your research, understand where cars are going. So you can really look at things like this, which you can go into, specific makes, specific brands, specific models to see what's happening. Now, for me personally, I have been itching to buy a Tesla Model S for so long now. But of course, when gas prices went high, interest rates went high, demand for electric cars, specifically Teslas, went through the roof and their prices dramatically increase, and there was no way I was going to buy a Tesla at that price. They are finally starting to come down. I mean, if you look here, I'm in the market personally for a Tesla Model S. Just in the last 90 days, the prices have dropped by almost 15%. That is massive. That is thousands of dollars. So you can just see right there what a difference it makes. The Model 3, one of the most popular makes that Tesla has dropped by over 15%. So it's insane, right? These prices are coming down. Things are going to normalize at least somewhat to put yourself in a better position. Now, because I'm personally looking for a Tesla, I literally check the Tesla website every single day for their inventory just to see the changes in price. And it was only up until last week where I've seen used Tesla Model S's in the 2018 and the 2019 range, which is what I'm looking for, finally show up in the $40,000 range. It was the high 40s, but I literally have not seen that happen in almost 7 to 8 months. And that's how I know prices are coming down. And in fact, I almost made a mistake. So I want you guys to learn from me. Almost 6 months ago, I put down a deposit on a Tesla Model S. The price on it, $73,000. That same Tesla today has come way down in the high 50s. So I'm so thankful. I might have lost the $500 on my deposit, but I'm so glad that I had the right frame of mind to say, you know what, it's not worth it because prices are coming down, so I'm gonna wait a little bit. So I love using tools like Car Gurus, and you can even if you're new to the car buying process, right? You can start using little indicators while you educate yourself and just kind of looking at, okay, well, where are prices at? What does Car Guru consider to be a good deal, a fair deal, below market, above market? And you're gonna start kind of understanding where the price points are and how they're shifting and they're changing. You're gonna see that pattern recognition. And you can use this as a great tool to at least give you some indication as what might potentially be a good deal and what is something that's considered highly priced so that you can avoid that. So being patient is extremely important so that you get in at the right price at the right time. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but I cannot emphasize how important that is. So make sure you utilize these tools and that you pay attention over the next couple months, because that's going to help you make the best decision possible. And once again, these links are down in the description below. Okay, and the third thing that you can definitely do to secure yourself a great deal. You've done all your research, you understand that you can get good financing or that prices have come down and it's time to buy for you. The thing that I don't recommend often on this channel, but is also a great strategy if you have the ability to do so, is to buy cash. Now, I know a lot of my host friends out there, you guys buy your Turo cars cash depending on, being in certain categories so that you don't have any financial liability. Now, of course, not everyone's in the position to do that. However, if you have the ability to do so, that allows you to not only negotiate a good price, but you can completely bypass the crazy, insane interest rates. Now, I know out there, if you read on the web about buying cars for cash, there is a practice out there where you go in and you don't show your cards that you are going to be purchasing a car in all cash. So you go through the negotiations, you really bring down the cost of the car. And then in the end, you sort of reveal, actually, you know what? I don't need your financing. I'm going to go ahead and purchase this with all cash. Now, I know dealers sometimes frown upon this because it's like you're getting one over on them. However, it is a negotiation tactic that does exist. So if you go the all cash route, you really avoid interest rates and you don't have to have that high cost of ownership. Now, personally, I've never done the all cash route because I'm a big believer in leveraging someone else's money specifically for a revenue producing asset, right? Yes, we know cars depreciate, but they are assets in the sense that they do produce revenue. And if you can get into these cars correctly and you have your exit strategy, then it can make a lot of financial sense. So why leverage my own $10, $20, $30, $40,000 outright when I can leverage the banks? And the other reason why I like to finance versus paying cash is because that gives you the opportunity to be revenue positive immediately. The thing with paying cash is, let's say you buy a $15,000 car and that takes you maybe a year and a half to 2 years to recoup your initial $15,000 from renting out the car. Now you've put in a year and a half to 2 years of your labor for essentially no profit, right? So you're not getting paid for that. You're only paying yourself back. And I think that, for me personally, that strategy doesn't sit well with me, but I know it works really, really well for so many of you hosts out there. And the best part about that strategy is that it is almost entirely risk-free. Let's say you get into Turo, it doesn't work out for you, you don't love the experience, you can easily get out of that car by simply just selling it and doing away with it. So I definitely see the merit of why people utilize that, particularly if you have the ability to do so. So that is another way to avoid these crazy times. Now, I would highly recommend that you guys watch this video that I recently came out with, giving you the exact formula on buying a car and exactly where you need to land. So if you've ever have wondered what is that math, that actual equation that you need to buying a car for Turo, you can catch that right here.